Today, we will once again take a look at interesting footage that captures a moment. This is how Ukrainian FPV drones track and drop bombs on Russian soldiers in Frontline. Ukraine may be a powerhouse of drone production and innovation, but Russia is complicating Kyiv's largely effective efforts to dominate the skies above the war-torn country. Ukrainian drone operators face two main challenges on the battlefield, more than 2 years into full-scale war, said Taras Chmut, the director of Ukraine's Comeback Alive Foundation, which supports Kyiv's military. Ukrainian drone crews cannot launch tens of drones from the same sliver of the front line simultaneously. Rather, Ukraine needs to get these drones in the air one by one. This is a disadvantage, Chmut said. The second problem is that the enemy can jam typical frequencies with typical electronic warfare equipment designed for this. That's why skilled crews search for and change frequencies to suit the specific area of the front line where they operate, Chmut added. This allows them to work with more drones simultaneously. Ukraine is learning from Russian electronic warfare (EU) tactics, adapting to overcome them, Kyiv says. Wherever there's a gap in EU, more drones can take to the skies at any one time, said Samuel Bendet, of the US-based think tank the Center for Naval Analyses, CNA. It's all about flying them at frequencies that are not jammed by EU equipment, Bendet told. EU is part of how Russia and Ukraine are working to combat the other's extensive drone fleets, not least the popular and ubiquitous first-person view, FPV, drones. EU systems can interfere with the targeting of drones, jamming the signals from satellites directing the uncrewed vehicles to their destination. Drone operators are then tasked with finding workaround for counter-drone technology. Earlier this week, a Russian military blogger said Ukrainian FPV drone operators were already changing frequencies and ordering industrial production with this changed parameter from foreign factories. Our electronic warfare is not always effective against them, the blogger said in a post to the Telegram messaging app. Drones' resistance to EU depends on the type of equipment used by an enemy force, including the frequencies they are using. EU efforts can be counteracted by upping the number of frequencies used, said Chmut. Another Russian military blogger said on Tuesday that Moscow's FPV drones were being suppressed by our own electronic warfare around the captured eastern city of Avdiivka, with only around 30% of the uncrewed vehicles reaching the area of their targets. Ukrainian sources have also reported that Russia's military has moved its own FPV drones to frequencies different from those often used by Ukraine's EU systems, in particular the portable versions, Bendet previously told. Both sides appear to believe the other is producing more FPV drones, but it is very difficult to discern true numbers, he added, and Ukrainian has increased its drone manufacturing, pouring resources into expanding its arsenal of cheap FPV drones. Ukrainian FPV development has probably grown exponentially, Bendet said in mid-December, and Kyiv is now likely getting a stream of tens of thousands of FPV drones each month. Ukraine has run several fundraisers for drones, particularly FPV uncrewed vehicles, and Operation Unity, an initial push from the Comeback Alive Foundation, the state-backed United 24 platform and Ukrainian online bank. Monobank raised funds to supply thousands of drones to units across Ukraine's armed forces, special operations forces, national police and security service. A subsequent fundraiser raised the cash to buy another 5,000 armed FPV drones. On the other hand, Russia appears to be using open-top golf cart-style vehicles near the front line in Ukraine, possibly in response to suffering significant vehicle losses during the war. One video appears to show a Russian armored column, which included several Desert Cross 1000-3 all-terrain vehicles, attacking Ukrainian positions in Donetsk Oblast. while the vehicles were being used to transport infantry to the front line, and the video shows them being struck by shells and explosives dropped from drones, and the video ends with shots of the open-top vehicles lying wrecked in the mud. Another video appears to show another similar vehicle being struck by an anti-tank mine, and other photos appear to show more of the all-terrain vehicles lying abandoned in a field. Forbes reporter David Axe noted that the vehicles lack armor and weaponry and are typically seen on farms and construction sites, not on the battlefield. If not insane, to deploy an open-top, unarmored all-terrain vehicle in essence, a heavy-duty golf cart in combat just a quarter mile from the front line, Axe wrote. Russia's military purchased hundreds of the Chinese-made vehicles in December amid reports that the country was increasingly turning to Chinese suppliers for equipment following major losses. At the time, local media published a video of President Vladimir Putin inspecting the off-road buggies, and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu told him that they were extremely in demand. Despite China's insistence that it is not selling military equipment to Russia, Ukraine's allies have expressed concern about the sale of non-lethal goods that might be used on the battlefield. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said last year that Russia was dependent on willing third-country individuals and entities to resupply its military and perpetuate its heinous war against Ukraine. Since it launched its invasion of Ukraine, Russia has lost about 2,600 main battle tanks and 4,900 other armored vehicles, the UK Defence Ministry previously said in an intelligence update. With the conflict now entering its third year, both Russia and Ukraine continue to grapple with personnel and equipment shortages on the front line. However, Ukraine has urged its Western allies to maintain their support, as President Joe Biden's request for additional military aid for Ukraine remains stalled in Congress.